the business from the medical field, and I had zero sales experience. My mindset behind coming into this kind of position was I wanted more for my daughter. I knew that I was a hard worker. I was tired of getting paid the same amount as everybody around me when I was putting in a lot more effort. So that entrepreneur mindset was always there from the very beginning. It's just the vehicle wasn't there yet. So I didn't know what that was going to look like for me. But because I am like, thank goodness I'm an open-minded person. I found out this opportunity on social media. I was looking at all the other people that were doing this, and I was like, well, if he and she is doing this, then why wouldn't I have a shot at, at least doing half of what they're doing, coming in. So I had that mindset. It was actually during COVID. I had gotten COVID. So I just was like, well, I'm just not going to go back to the hospital because you guys don't want me here anyways. So I took a leave, and during that time, I was like, I'm going to get my license. I'm going to figure this out. So that's exactly what I did. First month came into the business. I was doing all in homes. It was, honestly a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I think entrepreneurship, a lot of us can relate to that. We think that it's going to be easier, or it's a lot more glamorous when you look on social media and everything than what it actually is when you get into the business, and how much grit it does take to be successful in something like this. So my first month was a struggle. First couple months were a struggle. It was not that I wasn't making money. I had never made that kind of money in my life. I made 37,000 my first month in this business from straight just work ethic. Going in home, door to door, getting no showed, getting no sailed, over and over and over again, and getting back on the phones the next day, working every single day. That was really what kickstarted my business, because when you come from, a place where I didn't have a whole lot of money coming in the business. Everything was going back into like my life, like my daughter's childcare, like my rent, like my car payment, all of that. So everything was going back into that when I first started. So I knew that I had to work hard to be able to get in a position where I could continuously invest in my business to grow it. And that was my mindset from the very beginning. It was like, I'm going to work really hard because I need to be able to profit to be able to put back into my business to grow it. I never worried about going out and buying the fancy car, the fancy house, or anything like that my first year and a half of the business, maybe even 2 years into the business. I was focused on what can I put my money into that's going to make us grow faster, and what's going to help us, profit in the long run. That was my mindset. So learned how to do sales. 9 months into it, I started building. I wish I would have started building a little bit earlier, but hey, can't go back. If you guys are new here, definitely share the opportunity before I did, because we'd be much larger if I would have done that. But wanted to learn the sales process. But as soon as I started bringing people into the business, realizing that other people with no sales experience could do this too if they had a strong work ethic, then I took recruiting a lot more seriously. Finding different people in different sales industries, figuring out what their problem was and how I could help them with a new opportunity and putting them in a better vehicle. So, fast forward to now, we're 3 years in. Yeah, we're on track to do, we do anywhere between 1.2, 1.4 million a month in paid commissions each month. And we're on track to do so much more by the end of this year. So that's kind of the background of, how we got to where we're at now. If you guys want to know a little bit more about sales, I can definitely go into that. I've sold a lot of insurance. But to piggyback off of what Easton was saying at the very beginning, for anybody that's a parent in here, especially a single parent, I can really relate to that, because that was something that, was different about me when I first came into the industry. And I'm just going to be honest and transparent with you. It is never going to be easy when you first start the business with children. You have to make sacrifices. You have to put non-negotiables in place to be able to win for your family, ultimately. And the way that I always thought about it was, if I sacrifice time now, I'm going to have a whole lot more time later. And that worked out for me, because she was 3 when I started. She's 6 now. Now I have so much more freedom and time with my daughter than I did when I first started the business. Was it hard to sacrifice time away from her? Absolutely. Were there days that I didn't want to go in the field because it was Saturday and I would rather just spend time with my 3-year-old? Absolutely. But because of the mindset that kept on pushing me forward to make sure that I was going to be able to provide for her and give her the life that she deserves, I was able to make those sacrifices. So if you guys are in that spot right now, think about the long term. I always thought about that. Like, if I don't make the sacrifices now, I'm going to make these sacrifices forever. I'm always going to be giving something half of me, and I don't want to have to do that. Now I feel like I've really been able to give my business the best version of me and also my daughter, because I'm able to compartmentalize both things. When you're first starting a business, it's very hard to be able to do both. You do have to do what it's going to take to build a business to be able to provide for your family. So, it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely worth it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd do it over and over and over again just for what we have. So that kind of gives you guys some insight if you guys are parents or single parents and, are looking for some insight on that. But yeah.
So I guess two things. And we've been preaching on this concept of like being an extremely hard worker is literally the bare minimum requirement baseline of entry into our business. So just reaffirming, just in case anyone was confused, to win big, you have to work hard as a non-negotiable. It's not like Katelyn's not like, oh, I work harder than ever, but like you work your ass off because it's a literal requirement when you're trying to balance, especially if you have like a life balance like you had. So
Mhm.
I will hammer on that all day. Like you see Katelyn winning big, welcome to the club. That she works her ass off, probably more than the majority from an hour standpoint. And then you match that, which is what we're going to get into next which is skill set development. And I didn't know that you came on hitting that big early. That was not a shared experience. So I would like to figure out if you're talking about, hey, I was able to do this kind of, revenue generation my first few months, you were doing something besides running a volume of appointments because you had to have some kind of close in there and skill set that you were able to develop really, really quickly. So let's start with like selling stuff. I'd like to hear your kind of like process and how you look at it and how you walk people through like, hi, this is Katelyn to thanks for the 300 a month,
Yeah.
like through that whole thing.
Yeah. So when I was booking appointments to go in home, I was spending my time on the phones during money making hours, which is what I call them. Money making hours are the times that you're able to call people. The other times that are non-money making hours, if you're new and you don't have the skill set, then you have to learn that skill set. It's not something that's just going to come naturally. Like the more you do it, obviously the better you're going to get at it. But I was studying. Like I was going to, on YouTube looking at different people that had been very successful in this industry, people that were just good at sales in general. Like I was investing my time into that as well to be able to be better at the sales process. Now, when I first got on the phones, did I get a lot of rejection? Absolutely. But, I was able to overcome that pretty easily just because I understood the concept of sales and the fact that rejection is always going to motivate the right person. And I was the right person for sales because rejection motivates me even to this day. When I get rejected or when I, get a loss, as we should say, it motivates me to do more to help more people to figure it out. That is a super, super big thing that you have to remember when you are dialing the phones, whether you're doing in-home, virtual, whatever you're doing, is that rejection is a normal part of it. It should fuel you to do better. And also, your skill set comes from obviously repetition, but also you spending the time on your off hours learning how to become better. There is a psychology behind sales. Now, I'm going to just go into more of a virtual. Are you guys more virtual or in-home? Virtual? Okay.
Yeah, we're like the whole squad's
Yeah.
virtual.
Majority of the whole company is virtual now, which is great because we can work from home. But the concept behind, the sales process that I've always used is that I truly believe in the product that we're selling. So, I have a strong conviction that every single person on the planet needs to have insurance in place, whether it be whole life term, IUL, annuity. I don't like whatever their situation entails. I believe everybody needs to have this product. I also believe that everybody that fills something out online has an intention of getting information delivered to them. They just don't want to be sold. They want to be listened to. They don't want to be sold and they don't want to be pushed. So having that, that personality factor and also learning that skill set is super crucial in the beginning of the sales call. You're going to have to make a lot of calls. It's the law of averages. You're going to make sales if you make a lot of calls, but what you can do is if you get better at the skill set, then you're going to start closing more. Now, at the beginning, I wasn't very good at my skill set, so I had to make up for that with the activity that I was putting in. But now, like, it's selling at a high level. it really has to do with, figuring out what's going to work for you. So like if I was calling Easton, I'd be like, hey, Easton, hey, this is Katelyn. I'm just giving you a quick call because I received a request on my desk this morning regarding the funeral and final expense programs through Butte County. It looks like you put your date of birth down as 4/28/70. That would be you, right? Yeah. I don't really remember filling that out. Yeah, no worries, Easton. I don't really remember what I had for breakfast. However, this did come across my desk this morning, and it's my job to go over the information with you. What you do with that's completely up to you. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper. We can knock this out within a few minutes. That is basically, I mean, I say something different every time a little bit, but that's basically the tonality that I have of taking the control of the situation. Like they filled something out, I'm giving them a call, I'm verifying their information. I'm going to have them grab that pen and paper so that I can go through the process with them. The process is pretty simple and I make it very simple for them. What we're doing today is pretty simple. We're going to go through some medical and financial questions, see where you stand with both of those. And based on how you answer those to me, it's going to give me a really good understanding of exactly what you can qualify for. And my job today, the most important thing that I do is submit the application over to the carrier so that you can actually get the coverage in place. Does that all make sense? It usually makes sense to that person. Now, I think a lot of newer agents struggle at the very beginning of the call because of their tonality, their lack of confidence, and their fear of rejection. So those are three things that are super, super crucial. Like you're either not confident how you're presenting yourself to the individual when you get on the phone. You're afraid of what they're going to say. You're afraid of them rejecting you, which you have to get that out of your head. And you're just so new that you don't have a process in place yet. And you have to continue to practice that process to be able to get that person a pen and paper and get them through the sales process all the way to the, $300 a month premium paid, done. So those things are really, really important for you guys to think about. If you're afraid of the rejection, then you need to get really good at your objection handling. Like if you're afraid that they're going to reject you, then if you get really good at handling objections properly, then you're not going to have that fear anymore. Because if someone tells me, yeah, Katelyn, I'm not interested in that. Oh, okay, no worries. So this call isn't really to pique your interest in anything, but is that because of the fact that you don't think that you can afford this, or you just don't think you would qualify for it? Or I already got that taken care of. No worries. Perfect. That's exactly why I'm calling. It looks like on my end, you may have recently got this in the last few months. What carrier did you end up going with so that I can go ahead and update your file? Just the longer you can keep them on the phone, the more questions you ask, the better off you're going to be when it comes to getting into an actual presentation to help this client. People are natural to give you rejection. They're natural to want to get off the phone. If you can just be as real as possible and confident in what you're talking about, it is your job to get the information out. I always think about if I don't get that information out, somebody else is going to, that just is a little bit, more like has a little bit more skill than me, or this person's just not going to get insurance at all. And then we're doing a disservice to their family because they did fill something out. They clearly do have an intention of wanting to know the information.
So I hope everybody wrote that line down. I've never, 5 years, never heard that before. Hey, the point of the call is not to pique your interest. That is hilarious to me because we're not calling to get you interested, dude. You already sent in the interest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just like
Exactly.
not getting distracted, moving that to the side. Hey, all good. Proceed forward immediately. If you guys aren't gonna implement that, like that is one tiny little takeaway that again, all you're doing is moving the objection over and opening the door to continue having the conversation, because we aren't calling to make sure that you're interested. I'm calling to figure out what you can afford and make sure they take you so that everybody's good.
Yeah.
So I love that. So Katelyn, for you, was that like assumptive sales nature? Was that something that you picked up pretty quick? Were you ever uncomfortable doing that? Because that can be kind of this weird rub part when you're getting started is I don't want it to be like awkward or uncomfortable. I want everyone to be smoothly saying yes all the time.
It never really bothered me too much, like to get rejected in the sales process. I just knew that I was gonna have to keep on pushing forward. It really did motivate me, but I have a personality that it's like if I put my mind to something, I'm gonna make it happen no matter what. I have that mentality and I've always had that. So I think that really helped at the very beginning of my business when I was getting like, pushed to the side and I was getting a lot of rejection and I was struggling with, getting policies to stay on the books and everything like that. I definitely think that my mindset of like, I'm going to make this work no matter what helped. And if you don't have that, it doesn't mean that you can't develop it. It's just that you have to have tough skin. And I would highly recommend getting into more of a routine for yourself as far as like listening to podcasts, like doing things that are hard at the beginning of the day, like, working out, going on walks, doing your breathing, whatever you feel like you need to do to get your mind right in the morning. I feel like that's super important and that helps you develop that tough mindset of being able to handle any adversity that will come your way. And yeah, I think that there's a slight part of it is a little bit of my personality. I'm definitely somebody that's a go-getter. I never wanted to sit back and just wait for things to come to me. So, if you don't have that, then I encourage you to figure out what it's going to take for you to develop that, because there's always going to be a why behind that. Mine's my daughter. It always was. Before that, before I had my daughter, it was the dream of having a family, the dream of being able to be a mom, be able to, financially provide better than my parents could. So figure out what that is for you and it will get you up every day.
Well, I like that, and you kind of breezed on it a little bit. When you're trying to figure out, like, you just have a personality that's, I know I can do it. I know I can put in the work. I believe that I can win. And this is something that the like Hormozis talk about a lot, is like you build belief through the work that you do every day. So to say, well, I want to get to a place where I do believe in myself, it's a hell of a lot easier to believe in yourself when you're in the field 7 days a week, working 12 to 14 hours. Like that does build your belief. If you're like, well, how do I build it? You have to do the activities that build your belief. And that's like working and skill set and follow-ups and getting help training. It's all the same stuff. So I really like, that's basically like a mini version of what you said, but
Yeah.
that is how you build up this big stack of undeniable proof that you are the one to do it, because you're doing the things to create that belief, which I like a lot. Um, let's kind of take a right and go to, why did you wait so long to recruit? And then when you did, how have you seen your onboarding, like get people started, get better and better and better, and maybe like a few things that you're doing different now that you're like, oh man, if I could reset and like have this in our business actively in the first day, we would be at 10 million, but we're not. That
Mhm.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, to start off, the reason that I didn't start recruiting when I first started was I was not developed as a person, the person that I am today. I was not that girl when I first started. So I was worried about other people, what they were thinking about me. I was already losing friends because I was sacrificing a lot. I was worried about what my family thought, like friends, everything like that. So sharing the opportunity was uncomfortable for me, which was also selfish. It was me trying to keep it to myself and not, just letting my, ego step to the side and be like, who cares what other people think? I'm doing well. I want to be able to, truly help, other people with this opportunity if they're willing to put in the work to do so. So when I finally did start recruiting, it was because people were reaching out to me. And the success that I was having was bringing people to me. And when I first started, I honestly was like, yeah, like, I was letting like anybody come in. Like I wasn't doing any screening whatsoever. I was just like, yeah, it worked for me. Like it could work for you too. Why don't we just get you, your license and get you up and rolling? Well, that was a lot of warm markets, people that already known me, people that had known of me from somebody else. And a lot of them aren't still here today. Part of it is because not everybody is the right fit for this opportunity. The other part of it is that when you are in a leadership role, you have to develop yourself to be that leader that somebody is like going to follow. And I wasn't that person at that time. So there was no structure in place. There was no accountability in place. We hadn't quite developed the culture yet, and I was still trying to figure out how to sell and develop and do all of that. So it was a lot going on in that first year. If I could go back to starting this business out, I would have focused a whole lot more at the very beginning on self-development and developing myself as a leader, at the same time as I was learning how to sell, run a business, all of that, and putting the systems in place earlier for people to be successful. So systems in place, what I mean by that is, having expectations for the people you're bringing in, giving them the full picture of what this opportunity looks like so that when they come in, they're not surprised that it's hard, like they're going to go through hard things and that they're going to be an entrepreneur and that they got to keep themselves accountable. Having like more structured trainings and boot camps and maybe an office that was going to be a better space for everybody to get into. All of those things are super important. And those are things that I just didn't have in place when I started. Now, a lot of you have a lot more, you have support, you got a lot of people around you. So take advantage of that. Like bring people on calls like this, because that was another thing I wasn't doing. I wasn't sharing the knowledge with everybody. I was just like, oh, go figure it out. And I never, I was doing my own thing. So that's something that I would have majorly changed, because now we're still not perfect. Nobody's perfect. No business is perfect. But with what we have now in place, we have a much higher retention of agents where they stay. We have structures in place for training. We have a great culture, and I can leave that to all of the people that I brought into this business. They have like changed the entire trajectory of our business just by bringing in their own unique skill sets, their own personalities, their own goals. And when you all come together, it really does become a lot stronger. So making sure that you find those people that you want to partner with and making sure that you're all on the same page to grow something together, because that helps a ton. That's the way that we've grown, to the size that we're at now. It does not have to do with what I have done. It's really what all of my people have done for the organization as well. And I do believe that our organization feels that if one person is growing, the entire organization is growing. So being there to make sure that everybody's winning. Those things and staff. I mean, if you guys are in a position to start paying somebody to do the things that are not making you money, get somebody that can help you do those things, because I had a dialer when I was selling at a high level. I had two at one point. Like dialing was not something that I could spend my time doing all day if I wanted to write at a very high level. So I hired two dialers. I was never stingy on lead flow. Like I was gonna invest in leads because I knew that the return was gonna be there, because I believed in myself that I was gonna work them. If you're not spending enough on leads, it's probably because you have the self-doubt that you're gonna not make it back. Well, I can tell you that I've never not doubled what I've made on a lead spend, like at least doubled, never. So, that should tell you guys right there that if you're able to invest in the leads, you're going to make your money back.
Hey, Katelyn, what was your tip when you were like producing at a high clip? What was your normal like week to week lead spend?
Like 3 to 4 grand. I was producing like 80 to 120.
Yeah. Which you
So
you know it's probably freaky when you're like, wait, spending 12 to $15,000 on leads. Well, yeah, but if you're slinging 80, 100, 120
yeah,
consistent back to back to back, like it's all it is an expense that yields a huge ROI. So I know
yeah.
that was a question in here, and it's a common one. Like, hey, how big should your lead spend be? If you want to get into a six-figure gen type bracket, like you got to drop it, and then you also got to be very diligent in working, which I guess is a good fit for your
Yeah.
team name. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
I
Yeah,
have a big
absolutely.
question, Easton. On your Katelyn, my name's Katie.
Hi.
On when you first started, you talked about how like obviously you still had to pay your car payment, your mortgage, like all of your bills. So when you first started, did you just put leads onto a credit card? Did you start with a small lead balance and work your way up? Or how did you get yourself to that $3,000 a week lead spend mark? Also with obviously toggling and juggling your regular bills.
Good question. So I did get a credit card when I first started, and I put that all my leads on my credit card. And there was honestly times that it was hard to pay it back because I wasn't getting paid, like because I was new and I was trying to figure it out. But my main priority, my main bill when I first started this business was leads, because if I didn't have leads, I wasn't going to make any money. So I always knew that. I was like, I have to make sure that I spend the money on the leads. Now it was not 3 to 4 thousand when I first started. My first lead batch spend, when I first started, it was like $700. That week I went out and wrote like 9,000 on $700 in the field, like in home. So my first week really helped me a ton. was working really hard, and I was able to profit a ton, which allowed me to put more money back into the business. Now, if you're consistent, you will run into those lucky weeks. If you have a bad week and then the next week you take off because you're feeling sorry for yourself or whatever, you're in your head, then that week may not come. You always have to think of every day is a new day. You know, if I got on the phones today and I got a stack of a bunch of bronze leads and I called them and I got torn up and nothing happened, I guarantee you if I made no sales today, that if I got up tomorrow with a positive attitude with that same lead stack, that something would come my way. It's just the way that sales work. But credit cards are super important to be able to start the business, or just knowing that you gotta be able to invest in it. And also, like, you're not gonna like lose your apartment if you don't pay your rent on time 1 month. Like that would happen to me. So you're not gonna lose it. It's fine. This business was worth it.
I have one more question to piggyback off of that, Easton. Sorry. When you have a brand new agent in, like I have been like building a team or whatever, and when you have a brand new agent in, what is something like ideally that you tell them that they should at least bare minimum have to start with investment, or are they running your old leads their first couple weeks, or like what do you do with a brand new agent?
Yeah, so I've done it multiple different ways. So I have matched people on their first lead spend. So I ask them how much they can spend, and then I'll match them the other half. So if they can spend 500, then I'll match them for 500, gives them 1,000 to start out the business. I also do provide old leads to agents that don't have anything, and I'll work side by side with them. I've also done lead programs, which lead programs are hit or miss. Like lead programs is where, you know, the comp's a little bit lower. You do help them with leads. But the thing about lead programs, and I'll tell you guys like as transparently as I can, is that you do have to structure those because it should not be something that's a long-term thing. People need to understand how to invest in their own business for it to grow. They don't want to be basically handheld forever. So if you have somebody that you think is like really has a lot of potential, but they absolutely have nothing to put into the business, you can either help them with your old leads. And yes, growing a team, sometimes it takes away from your personal production because you are helping somebody else get sales. But in the long run, it is definitely worth it if you're doing it with the right people. So it really depends on where you stand, Katie, with your own personal finances as well. Like, you know, if you can afford to help them out with a stack of bronze leads, then go ahead and do that their first route. But make sure that if you are doing that, that you're holding them accountable and you're not just sending leads and they're not showing up on Zoom, or they're not dialing, or they're not asking for, you know, advice or feedback on it. The biggest thing that I'll learn is that if I send somebody a stack of leads and I don't see them on Zoom for 3 days and I don't hear from them and they make no sales, it's never happening again. Like, I'm never helping you again. Like, you just lost it completely. You should definitely be communicating with me if I'm going to be helping you out like that. Most people that you bring into the business have a little bit of money to put into the business. They just have to want it bad enough. Remember that. They have a little bit to put in. If you want to help them a little bit to get a little bit more leads, you can send them your old leads, you can. But most people, if they want this to work bad enough, they're going to figure out a way. I've had people go and like Uber drive for like, you know, 2 weeks to get, you know, lead money. So they'll figure out a way if they really want it.
Yeah, I think that piece, Katelyn, is really important what you're just talking about. Because the worst thing, and it's a false hope and expectations thing, is like, hey, if you come here and you want to put $50 to $100 in your first lead batch, like just understand that that's probably not going to go great. So if you have a job currently, or you want to go and dash or something, like please do not quit your job until you have like 500 to $1,000 set aside. That has worked significantly better, and it allows you to hire closer to the right people. Because if they're like, oh, I would never I would never do that. Like, well, I'm glad we covered that before your license, because this is absolutely not going to be a good fit for you. If you're petrified to put $1,000 to start a new business, like jobs are for some people, and like this is already a risk for entrepreneurs. So I think that like what you just said about go DoorDash for a few weeks to set some money aside so that you can buy leads and try it out. And guess what? If it doesn't work, then you can go dash for another couple of weeks and save up money and then put it into some more leads. And if somebody does that twice, that'd be somebody that I would be willing to bet on financially. Because you already showed me, you know, you basically just got hammered and then still came back and wanted to try again, which is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you directing most of all your agents, like you said, to like the bronze, like, or to the ILC leads, or are you self-generating leads?
We do a little bit of both. So when I first bring somebody in, I do direct them to the ILC, like bronze, silver, golds, just because they can get a lot of reps. And I do let them know, like, your first couple dial days, like you want to be able to help a family, but if you don't, you're just learning. Like we're gonna listen to each other, send me recordings, I'll be on Zoom. And then after that, when they have made a couple sales, like there's many campaigns out there where somebody can, invest 500 to 1,000 a week on leads, and they're your own personal campaigns. There's different vendors out there all the time that reach out to different people about their leads. So it's like once they start getting their feet wet with the ILC leads, then you can start venturing out on other ones. If I have somebody that has, like I have a guy right now that's like willing to put 2,000 down on leads, like right off the rip. So I actually told him like let's start with some different ILC leads. Spend 1,000 your first week, keep the other 1,000 until we go through those ones. And then after that, after I see where your skill set is with sales and how you're doing, then we'll see where we're going to invest that other 1,000, into the leads. So most of my agents do pretty well off of the bronze, silver, and golds, but they work very hard. They are dialing 400, 500, 600 dials a day. And we have fun with it. I mean, we do. Like we think of it like a video game. So
Well, yeah, and this comes back to your prior point of expectation stuff. Like you're not saying, hey, get $100 of bronze leads and come out and make your first 15 grand. Like, hey, you have to dial a lot, and you're not looking to close 80%. You're looking for the easy laydowns to turn profit, to reset and do it again. And it seems like you've got that expectation piece dialed from like, hey, if you're going to start on your own, here's a cheap way to get started. And then for the right people, if you are doing lead assist stuff to help people get moving, again, it's the same thing. Like if we set up a plan and I don't see you and it's only Wednesday and then you show up later, you're not on, how can I possibly feel good about continuing to help you with my time and resources when you made it 2 days?
absolutely.
Weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Katelyn, I know that you've got some picking up to do. So if you are okay with maybe like 1 or 2 little questions, or there's a big staple that you're like, hey, I want to make sure that I come on here and share this info with you. You can either start by just something that you feel like would be valuable, and then we can open it up to some questions if you have something specific
absolutely.
to cover.
The main thing that I wanted to get the point across to you guys coming on here today was just the fact that sacrifices are necessary at the very beginning of your business to be able to grow it, as well as developing yourself as a person. I think I've said that quite a few times in this call. So I mean it. Like developing yourself as a person is extremely useful in any entrepreneur position. Just because if you're not able to, take the losses and the hits and get back up the next day and get after it swinging, then you're going to struggle mentally with this. And, I struggled personally, mentally a lot. So I know what that looks like. So it's like really important to develop yourself. And then I wanted to answer this question that was in here too, of like the leads that I was running my first year, everything in the ILC my first year, it was like underneath direct mail for the mortgage protection mailers. I was also running in-home. So I was like looking for things in my area or where I could travel to. Internet leads, which they're all different names now, but I was just running like the 1, 2, and 3 month internet leads when I first started. And as time went on, my lead spend just continued to increase. But yeah, open it up for questions. I got about 10 minutes.
I have 2 questions. This
Okay.
is it. The first one is like, what are the standards you have for your new agents coming on? And then I'll ask my second one after that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So standards when I first bring somebody in the business, 2 weeks to get your tests knocked out of the way. So anything past 2 weeks, you probably just aren't taking this as seriously as you need to. So 2 weeks is a standard for me to work directly with me. You need to get that done within 2 weeks. You need to be able to, at least put down 500 a week on leads. I'll match you the other 500 when you first start working directly with me. You do need to be on Zoom on a daily basis, at least 5 days a week, holding yourself accountable. And I do have them, tell me that they're going to make $400 to $500 a day, their first few weeks to get the reps in. Those are my main standards. And also, I mean, to be honest, Erica, I'll meet people where they're at. If they're looking to just make, 10, 20,000 a month, like I'm going to meet you where you're at. That's fine if that's what your goal is, but you won't be getting as much as my time as somebody that's looking to produce 50K a month and build a business here. So that standard set pretty early on, as well as letting them know, like, at the very beginning of like bringing them into the business, like what is your end goal and what do you want out of this opportunity? Because I am very good at duplicating the process, but I need to know exactly what you want, what you're willing to put into the business so that I can tell you. And that comes with time. But I'll bring most people in if they have a good attitude, if they're willing to invest in themselves in their business, and if they're willing to show up and do the things that are needed before they even get their like carriers, like getting that test done, showing up on Zoom for trainings, getting through the boot camp, making a script for themselves. If they do all of that, then, I have a pretty good feeling that they're going to do all right here.
Awesome. Thank you. And then can you touch base? Obviously, your schedule's probably quite different now than it was in the very beginning when you were like sacrificing a ton for your daughter. A lot of our team, they are parents on here with young kids. And I guess, what did your schedule look like? I'm assuming your daughter was in daycare or childcare. Can you just touch base on like your schedule with like, I know it's silly, but like getting her ready, taking her to daycare, coming and working all day, getting her to bed, and probably still working.
Yes. So I have 50% custody with her dad. So she was with her dad 50% of the time. During the time that she was with her dad, I was all in on the business. There was nothing else that I was focused on. So getting up early, driving to, whatever county I was running that day early in the morning, getting there by 8 to run until 8 o'clock. My dial days were structured the same way, getting up early, dialing, and in between dials, talking to agents, trying to recruit some people, doing all that. But I mean, it might sound crazy, but I'll just be honest. I mean, I was working like 7 days a week. So like I was up early, going to bed late, and I found a passion for it and a love for it. And I did that for about 2 years straight until it started to kind of, we were hitting around 1 million then, and we were doing pretty well. And I was able to, bring it back a little bit with the things that I was doing with my daughter. But during the times that I had her, she was in childcare, and I would drop her off at 7:30 in the morning. I would have my mom pick her up at 5. And then when I got back from, wherever I was that time, I would pick her up, do the evening routine. It'd be the same thing over and over again. So I sacrificed a lot of time. There was obviously times where there was like a Sunday where I'd have her and, we would spend time together, but, you really have to put your head down at the very beginning of this business to grow it. And I know that the mom guilt is real. I had it for sure. I still sometimes do, but she understands now. I'd much rather do it that way than, prolong the time that I can't spend with her for years, for her whole life, really.
I got a quick one if you have time.
Yeah.
What is the, I guess, I don't know if you have the exact, but percentage wise, how much time are you spending with your specific team versus are you at the point where maybe you have other leaders that have developed within your agency that are now taking that, like new agent comes in?
Good question. I have a great leadership group. So I have 34 directs. Not all of them are building a business, but I have a very, very wide business. And the directs that I have that are agency owners, they're very, very good at stepping up and helping with new agents, helping with their agents, running trainings, all of that. I am definitely still on Zoom. I'm definitely on the phone all day long, but a lot more of my time goes to newer agents that come in direct to me. B, training and the back end stuff of like how we can become more structured. Media and recruiting, because that really does help me. I have a lot of people that reach out just because I'm putting energy towards that as well and trying to grow this thing. But eventually, as you get your solid legs, like you can trust them that they're going to be able to take care of like their agencies, the things that they're doing, and like where your time goes is making sure that it's structured and making sure that everybody is, you know, on the same page and we're all growing and winning.
Are you, last follow-up to that, are you still taking directs, or are you wide enough to where you're now plugging?
I
you know?
still take directs.
Okay.
Yeah, I still take directs. I think it's important to continue to take directs, especially when you do get to a big size of a business, because I never want to lose the passion for the business. And my new people that come in, when I take them direct to me, like I enjoy taking them direct to me and watching them grow. So I think that's an important thing. And I mean, my business was never structured that way. I wasn't just given anybody, actually. So I think that it's made me the person that I am, like when it comes to how hard I work. So I want my team to also do the same, because it does make you a better person along the way.
Awesome. Thanks, Katelyn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then I'll ask this and then we'll wrap, because it's basically touching on Ty's topic a little bit. When you're like helping you, so you got an up and coming leader, are you like, hey, when you get to 100, 150, 200, like now I'm setting you free, and it's like, hey, now it's like you own your business and you can lean on me for big stuff, but like the day to day is more, is it a VP level? What are you trying to build people to and then cut them loose?
It really comes down to just like how they present themselves and how they handle things. Like numbers are obviously, that numbers don't lie. Like as they're growing, like you're gonna see that their numbers are going up and up. But there are times, you know, that like there's agents that come in and they have a small team and they maybe do 100 grand a month, but they're extremely good leaders and they're just trying to figure it out, and they're loyal, they're trustworthy, they bring a lot of value to the business. So those people, is that what you were asking, kind of like those people, I'll let them do their thing. You know, I'm not going to micromanage anybody. I have a very like non-micromanaging like leadership style. Like I'm not going to micromanage anybody, but I'm definitely going to be here if you need me.
Awesome. That's it. Appreciate it.
Of course. You guys have a great rest of your Monday. I'm going to go pick up my daughter, but thanks,
Hey, can you
thanks
guys
so
throw
much,
Katelyn some
Ethan, for
thumbs?
having me.
We appreciate you. That was killer. This is recorded, so we'll get it out to everybody to rewatch.
That's
Thank you so
great.
much for taking the time, Katelyn, and I'm sure I'll see you over the next few months.
All right. Thank you for having me, guys. Bye.